News from the region. Pandemic exposed deep flaws in education, says women and child rights campaigner in Barbados. On the international scene, US avoids government shutdown after bill passes. While in sport, Australia call up Constats 19 for Boxing Day test. The details after this. The Bank of Jamaica (BOJ) has announced a further reduction in its policy interest rate to 6% per annum. That's according to a statement from the central bank on Friday. The reduction becomes effective December 23, 2024. This marks the fourth consecutive rate cut in 2024, a testament to the bank's confidence in the stability of Jamaica's inflation environment. The decision was made during the Monetary Policy Committee MPC meetings on December 18 to 19, 2024. It was driven by a consistent decline in inflation rates. Annual headline inflation fell to 4.3% in November 2024, down from 7.4% in January, while core inflation has remained below 6% for 17 consecutive months. These figures indicate that inflation is firmly anchored within the bank's target range, despite challenges such as adverse weather and global economic uncertainties. BOJ Governor and MPC Chairman Richard Biles emphasized that the easing of monetary policy aims to support economic growth while maintaining price stability. Director of Public Prosecutions Paula Llewellyn is welcoming the Court of Appeal ruling, which clears the way for her to continue in the post. Speaking with Nationwide News, Ms. Llewellyn says the decision will allow her to fulfill outstanding matters and effect a proper and seamless transition when the time comes.
I am glad that the matter has been dealt with and that I can continue the process of continuing to give effective service above self in terms of leading my team, mentoring my team, and also transitioning, putting certain things in place that I had already come in, to make sure that administratively there will be a seamless transfer when I do the Met office in September.
It was a unanimous agreement from Justices Jennifer Straw, Vivian Harris, and Kisok Leng. They say Paula Llewellyn is entitled to benefit from the extension found to have been validly enacted by the Parliament. In providing a summary of the reasons for the court's judgment, Justice Straw concluded the Constitutional Court was correct to reject the argument advanced by the People's National Party (PNP) that the amendment was enacted for an improper purpose. Ms. Llewellyn says the move to oust her from office had left her staff distraught.
My staff was totally discombobulated. I hugged so many different people. Remember, gentlemen, I've built the office where on the establishment we have one of the biggest prosecuting offices in the Caribbean. I would say we have the preeminent one because unlike others, including Trinidad, every single case, whether it's complex or not, every case in the Court of Appeal, we handle them ourselves. So we have built up a lot of competencies, and very often we are in demand in the rest of the Caribbean to come and share our experiences. And I was very concerned about my staff. You had persons who were in tears, and I had to draw on my oft-repeated mantra about having a broad back.
Paula Llewellyn, Director of Public Prosecutions. Meanwhile, Ms. Llewellyn questions if attempts to remove her from office stems from her gender.
As I reflected on the 6 or 7 male members of the profession who were my predecessors, every single one of them were able to serve their term until they reached the legal age to retire. So you ask me that question, and I would say to my critics, is it because I am female why there is this feeling among 1 or 2 only people that I should depart from the usual tradition that was observed by my male predecessors and step down before the age of retirement?
Paula Llewellyn is the first woman in Jamaica to hold the post of DPP. The DPP also rejected claims by PNP General Secretary Dr. Dayton Campbell that she acted in a partisan manner.
You are talking to Paula Llewellyn, who one of the first acts of my office was to oversee and represent the U.S. government in the extradition of Mr. Coke. You're talking to the person who had to make the decision to have a search warrant issued for a minister of government. I am very faithful to the code of conduct of a prosecutor. I've been a prosecutor for 40 years. I was a prosecutor long before Dr. Campbell probably even did medicine. I just look young. I have prosecuted and made decisions in many, many, many cases in terms of all political stripes, and my methodology is the same.
Paula Loden, Director of Public Prosecutions. The Jamaica Accountability Meter Portal, JAMP, is withdrawing its use of the term unaccounted for in its recent report regarding the lack of appropriations accounts for expenditure at several ministries and government agencies. In a statement on Friday, JAMP says the term has caused confusion and widespread misinterpretations about its recent research findings. It's therefore seeking to clarify its stance. Siobhan Campbell tells us more.
The Accountability Watchdog initially stated that a review of the Auditor General's annual reports for 16 government entities, including ministries, revealed that $3 trillion in spending had not been accounted for. This was attributed to the lack of appropriation reports submitted to the Auditor General. This took place across both PNP and JLP administrations, going back as far as 2013. However, many media entities, including international press, presumed this meant that trillions of dollars in government spending had gone unaccounted for. This narrative persisted despite numerous attempts by the government to set the record straight. In its latest statement, JAMP emphasized that its use of the term unaccounted for has sparked confusion in the public discourse. The organization stressed that despite its attempts to explain the nuance, the phrase unaccounted for was still misinterpreted as suggesting funds were missing, a claim the group has consistently refuted. As part of efforts to clear up the confusion, JAMP says it has officially withdrawn the term from its vocabulary. It adds that going forward it will use more precise wording. For example, it's now stating that Auditor General reports over the last 11 years indicate that financial reports for some $3 trillion of public funds are outstanding. It says to further reduce misunderstandings, JAMP will also update the title of its letter to Parliament, now reading $3 trillion of appropriation accounts outstanding. JAMP says its decision comes after numerous interviews and clarifications, yet the persistent misinterpretation has threatened to overshadow the pressing issue. Meanwhile, Finance Minister Fayval Williams has voiced her support for the withdrawal of the term unaccounted for. The minister is commending the distinction made between unaudited and unaccounted for. She expressed relief that the clarification would help the public better understand the issue at hand. The minister also called on the media and public figures to exercise greater care in their reporting. Minister Williams further underscored the importance of accuracy in protecting Jamaica's standing, both domestically and internationally, emphasizing that misinformation could have far-reaching consequences for the country's credibility. Siobhan Campbell for Nationwide News.
And now to news in the region. Women and child rights campaigner Dr. Marsha Hines-Myrie has issued a stark warning that the recent surge in youth crime in Barbados is not merely a byproduct of the COVID-19 pandemic, but rather a symptom of long-neglected issues within the education system and broader societal structures. Dr. Hines-Myrie was responding to comments by Cheryl Willoughby, Director of the Criminal Justice Research and Planning Unit, CJRPU, regarding recent crime statistics showing a troubling rise in youth crime linked to the COVID-19 pandemic. She said that while the pandemic may have contributed to the rise in delinquency among young people engaging in criminal activity, it has also highlighted long-standing deficiencies in Barbados' education system that have yet to be adequately addressed. And now to news on the international scene. The U.S. Senate has voted to pass a budget deal to avert what would be the first federal government shutdown since 2019, only hours after the lower house of representatives approved the same legislation. The budget deal was passed shortly after a midnight deadline with an overwhelming margin of 85 to 11. The bill does not include a demand from President-elect Donald Trump that lawmakers increase how much money the federal government can borrow, showing the limits of its ability to command lawmakers from its own party. The bill now goes to President Joe Biden to be signed into law. And now to sport. Australia have dropped Nathan McSweeney and called up 19-year-old opener Sam Constance to replace him for the final 2 tests against India. New South Wales' Constance is in line to become Australia men's youngest test batting debutant since Ian Craig in 1953. McSweeney was preferred to Constance at the start of the series, but he managed only 72 runs across 6 innings at an average of 14.40. Australia's chief selector George Bailey said Constance's selection offers the chance to throw something different at India's bowling attack. And now to recap the top stories making the news at 9. BOJ further reduces its policy interest rate to 6% per annum. Paula Llewellyn welcomes Court of Appeal ruling that clears the way for her to continue in her post as DPP. JAMP withdraws the use of unaccounted for in regards to its report about the lack of appropriations accounts for expenditure at several government ministries and agencies. I'm Andrew Cannon. You can find the news on our website at nationwideradiojm.com and on the Nationwide app available on Google Play and the App Store. This is next at midday.
You've just heard Nationwide News Now at 9.
It hurts if you don't check bird. Be excellent customer service. Our staff is knowledgeable and trustworthy. And we have a wide variety to supply society. And the price is right, yes, it's worth it. The solution to your auto parts needs to one-stop shop. And we deliver to, so if you can't come in